Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, man, I'm so happy it's Friday. We got Halloween this weekend. Make sure your kids are safe out there. I won't say anything else about that. Other than we're expecting none. That's our anticipation. We have not very many young people where me and my wife live. One of the advantages of getting older, I guess anyway, I don't know, but I hope everybody has a great weekend. The weather is just fantastic here in Arizona. It's actually been a little warmer than expected. But the sun is out. This is our time to brag about how wonderful everything in the world is. It is Friday. No Friday event at the radio station. We're actually going to be doing some work inside of the radio station, and that may last several weekends here, but we'll keep you updated. As always, I'm joined with my partner in Colorado, Jason Walker. Jason, hey, man, we made it to Friday.
Yes, we did. You know, and it's interesting. Halloween, my house that I sold to buy into this company, that house, we'd get 100 to 200 kids every Halloween that showed up there, and we did it all up, man. We went all out. And Jack can tell you all the fun we used to have, scaring the crap out of the kids coming to the door.
Of course. That, you know what? That fits for you. Yes, I can see you actually taking pleasure in scaring the little kids out.
Well, actually, we built up a lot of courage in these kids. So, like some of the little kids, we gave away the finger lights. We didn't give away candy. So every kid that left had something that was glowing in the dark on their finger. So the kids were like, "Where'd you get the finger lights?" They had to go to the creepy house. And the little tiny kids, we wouldn't scare them. But yeah, you had to. Right. We did such a good job, Joe. We did the house up like kind of a graveyard thing. We didn't do the whole slash or bloody thing. We wanted the walking in a graveyard kind of thing. And the funny thing is I'd always put the cars in the driveway so that you had to walk up like a sidewalk. There's nowhere else to go but up the sidewalk. And I put like the one thing that you're not looking at, because they have all this stuff to look at. There's sounds and everything. But the one thing the kids were never looking at was a trash can. You got the big trash can, We'd wash it out before Halloween, power wash it, and put a guy in there. And inside the house, we had somebody with walkie-talkies. As soon as the kids finally got through this scary house and got their finger light, they're walking away thinking everything is good. And then someone just on the walkie-talkie says, "Now," and a werewolf jumps out of the trash can at the last second as they're walking out. So it was pretty fun. The teenagers, they walk up like they're badass, and hey, I'm not afraid of nothing. But when that werewolf comes out of the trash can, the teenagers were in the middle of the lawn.
Yeah.
It's fun. Halloween can be fun if you want it to be.
Yes, well, everyone's got an opinion on Halloween, so I'm gonna move on from it. I don't have any grandkids. My kids are way too old. But somehow, seemingly, my wife never misses an opportunity to send a care package. So yes, they got their Halloween care packages. So they're happy. They've got their candy fix from Mom out there. I will tell you, man, price of candy steep. I'm just glad we didn't really have to buy. My wife bought it some anyway, and I'm like, why? No, I'm sitting there. We've already ate about half of it already between the two of us.
Sugar inflation.
Yes, and let me tell you, the list is growing leaps and bounds. We got a great show lined up for you. We had a ton of data out after that dismal GDP report yesterday. We got inflation data out today. We've got Fed meeting next week. The inflation data red hot again. I shouldn't even call it inflation data. I apologize. Absolutely fake, worthless data that tracks absolutely nothing came out today. And based on this fake data that tracks absolutely nothing, Jason, they're anticipating that the Fed is going to start the taper at this meeting next week.
Well, I guess that's encouraging. They're actually going to be responsible, or at least attempt to look like it.
Come on, be responsible. You think about, hey, the inflation, we don't know if it's the worst ever. We don't, because they changed the way they calculate it. But we do know it's the worst since 1991.
Yep.
The worst since 1991, and the Fed so far has done absolutely nothing. They haven't raised interest rates, not even a quarter of a point. They haven't begun to taper, but I will tell you this. Remember, I was telling you this, 60 days ago. The real gold rally won't start until taper actually begins. And today was another great reminder of that. Gold's down 20 some bucks here today because inflation was high, and the Fed's probably going to taper here next week. And I just laugh because that's how it works, right? Now, once it actually starts, then it'll go. But really, you're telling me that we haven't priced this in already? I mean, they've been talking about taper for how long? But again, all of this stuff is all rigged anyway. Just like the data's rigged, it doesn't track. The funny part, it tracks absolutely nothing. It's actually completely and totally worthless. But with their megaphone on Wall Street and all the stock channels, the cheerleading squad out there is trying to convince you somehow this report has merit. Janet Yellen was out talking today, and bad news for the liberal Democrats. The spending packages have seemed to imploded. We'll talk all about that. Patriot Radio News Hour. Don't touch that dial. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe Jaquin, Jason Walker. And it is Friday. We got our inflation data out. This is a September reading, in case you were wondering. And really, I should say, the data that tracks absolutely nothing came out today. It's to pretend that they're tracking price pressure. And remember, one of the ever seemingly growing list of mandates from the central bank. So the central bank's original job, I guess, or mandate, I don't know about original, but the mandate they had, stable prices. Of course, we know when we were on the gold standard, that's exactly what you got. There wasn't it. The only time there was ever inflation in the gold standard was war. And that was actually truly transitory. Because as soon as the war ended, all the prices went right back down to where they used to be. And that is why for 50, 100 years, a $20 gold piece, the ones that we sell, the Liberties, the Saints, they bought the exact same thing decade after decade. You could buy just as many eggs, just as much beef, right? We like to do the analogy, a $20 gold piece and a heifer were interchangeable, right? A rancher, his heifer was worth $20, and it was that way for decades. Of course, the bankers got put in charge, and now a $20 gold piece today is like $2,100. That's now, I don't know if you want to consider that stable. I guess, right? I guess the one thing's clear, Jason, right? If stable meant, hey, it keeps buying less and less stuff every year, then they've done their job.
Well, the gold is stable. It's still buying the cow, Joe.
Still buying the cow. Great point. Still buying the cow. Even now, during this inflation, still buying the cow. And then they added the quote-unquote full employment mandate. Yeah, and this is the arrogance of the bankers. And again, remember, with the stock channel cheerleading, they've been able to get away with this. how in the world do the bankers think that they could somehow control employment? By what? Lowering interest rates to zero, bringing them up to 20%. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. But somehow they convince people that they could. And, of course, now we're worried. I'm worried. Jay Powell better hope. Listen, everybody cross your fingers and hope this thing doesn't blow up before February. Because if Jay Powell isn't renominated and Lael Bernard gets the job, the bank is now going to say, well, we can control stable prices, we can control employment, we can control climate change, and we can control inequality too. Yeah, all of those things are coming. So let's hope it stays together. I think I'm 60-40, Jason. 60-40 that he's going to stay. And it's kind of weird. I'm rooting for a guy that has been absolutely terrible at his job.
I don't know if any of those guys have been good at their job. They're doing a job that doesn't help the American public, you know. So I don't know if there's been a Fed chief that actually has done anything good for us, Joe. I mean, it's a bank that should not exist, a private corporation that prints the money of the nation, and it should be abolished. And but yeah, I could see you could compare worse ones with better ones, I guess. And
yeah, worse for better. By the way, 4.4%. Was the number. Again, once again, it tracks absolutely nothing. I don't know what it tracks. But they have their favorite one. And I love this, too, because all the mainstream media loves to know, well, the Fed's favorite inflation gauge. And they gave it a really good name. They gave it the core inflation number, right? This is the what they say is the core, or the PCE. And that is their favorite number. Any guess as to why that's their favorite number?
It's probably the one that looks the best. It's the one that looks good.
It's a very great. It's actually the one that Jason's actually right. Of all of their fake ways, so they actually know what the real number is. This is the best part. They got the MIT Mafia out there, right? And they're sitting there, they're writing all this great code, and they're getting into Walmarts and Kroger's, and they're dealing with Amazon and all the manufacturers out there, and they're sucking up all this data. And they actually know what the actual number is. The problem is, in all of their tracking methods that they release, they actually don't have the actual number in there. So they don't even report what it is. They just get rid of it. But their favorite one just so happens to be the one that is the absolute lowest.
Yep, that's no surprise. Hey, you know, Joe, the core is the part of the apple that I don't eat.
That's a great analogy. Right, this is the most worthless number maybe reported of all and there's a lot of worthless numbers. This may be the most worthless one. But again, they get validity from the mainstream media. And no one actually wants to question. Now, outside of that, let's set that aside. Okay, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of beating the crap out of their fake inflation data. But inside of this number, we also had consumer spending, and we also had savings rates. The savings rate had one of the biggest drops ever. And, of course, that makes sense, right? Because no more government checks. The spending, they said consumer spending was up 0.6. Now, according to their number, inflation for the month was up 0.3. So, half of the increase in the consumer spending, according to the Fed, was inflation. I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't 0.3. it wasn't 0.6. It was probably somewhere between 1 and 1.5%. And as Jason said, right now we actually have a market that's crashing that doesn't look like it's crashing.
Now what's a healthy number for consumer spending to go up, Joe? What would be a good number?
Well, a good number would be something that would reflect what the actual inflation rate was. And really what you'd like to see is maybe up on maybe a tenth or two above the inflation number. And again, that would just mean we have actual growth, right? Versus, hey, the only growth was consumers had to spend more, but that's just because all the prices went up.
Right, and I would say I would say, Joe, that number's horrible then, because there's a lot of smart people out there that see the inflation and know, hey, I better spend everything I got so I don't have to spend more on it. You know, all these goods that can stay good, you know, furniture and things like that, and then non-perishable foods. These are things people are stocking up on, the ones that are looking around. So there should be a whole lot of spending, even though we're in a bad cycle, and with that number being low.
And again, so the way they did the number, they got it to look decent, right? Because they said consumer spending up 0.6, inflation 0.3 for the month. So they had that, you know, hey, consumer spending was double the inflation rate. Of course, the inflation rate was what was wrong in there, but right. Jason's right. A lot of hoarding in this. But it was the savings rate. In other words, consumers are running into the issue now of, I don't have the amount of money to do the spending I want to do. The savings rate fell a whole percent. That's huge in a month. To drop 1% in a month, it is now the lowest since before the pandemic. So think about all the giveaways the government did. And now they're saying, and the stock market rally, so the billionaires really skew this number. But despite all of that effort now, Jason, they're saying that the savings rate is back to January 2020. So it's going to be really interesting how all of this plays out. Like I said, fingers crossed that it doesn't blow up in Jay Powell's face.
So, Joe, I did see a number that I think September, 20% of all Americans maxed out their credit cards. So
the lower end, yes, the lower end, the
fake
people
spending.
That are, yep, and that is actually true. We didn't even get to report that. I want to let you know I got another great little personal story. So one of my wife's girlfriends, she's rents an apartment. Her lease is up, and she went down to the office to renew. And then ended up calling my wife and her friends and said, hey, I'm looking for a new place because I could no longer afford to live here. They wanted to jack up a rent, not $750. It was actually a 33% increase on her rent.
Wow.
And this is really, listen, this is just starting here because a lot of the rent increases so far, a lot of people haven't seen it because of when they signed their leases. And now as all these lease renewals come up, we're going to hear more and more and more about these things. And again, this is why do you think you're seeing Costco? Hey, we just raised wages by $1 in February. Now we raised it another $1. Did you see Starbucks going from 14 to 17? Nobody can make it work. Here's the latest. Every day now, I seemingly tell you another item that's going to get more expensive. Del Monte said prices for fruits are skyrocketing. And again, how many more times do we have to hear this? Calling it unprecedented inflationary pressures across the entire supply chain, saying that going into effect November 1st. So this is just in a couple of days. Prices on bananas, pineapples, fresh cut fruit, and essentially everything across the board. Prices are going up for Del Monte, Jason. And again, I don't know where this ends because Del Monte raised prices earlier this year.
Right, Joe. And you were talking about the rent from your wife's friend. That's the reason I bought a house. My wife and I bought a house last year. Is Coronavirus made it very clear that the next emergency thing was happening. I knew gold and silver was going to start to go up, and so we started trying to get a house because I wanted to freeze the payment, Joe. I wanted to I knew rents are going to, I was renting. It's like, well, maybe it's time for me to stop renting. Maybe I better freeze that payment and get me a place. And so we had to sweat it out and figure out how to get it done, but we got it done because I knew this stuff was coming, Joe. It's telegraphed. It's just, you got to be looking.
It wipes out everything else. When you see rent increases like that, it just wipes it all out. Right? It doesn't matter. Hey, I got $1 an hour raise. Okay. Well, if you're working 40 hours a week, that's an extra $40 a week before taxes. So maybe, you got 160, maybe you got 140, 130 more dollars a month. All of a sudden, here comes the landlord. Hey, you got to renew your lease. It's an extra $300, $500, $700, $1,000 a month. That dog doesn't hunt. When we get back, one of the all-time staples made a huge announcement about one of the most popular fast food items. We'll talk about that next. $800-951-0592. Man, it is busy as it busy could be in here this morning. McDonald's. The cost of the Big Mac, Jason, is going to get even more expensive. McDonald's CEO told investors on Wednesday that commodity prices rose another 4%, which had already risen 2% earlier this year. So, just think about this. Commodity costs for McDonald's up 6%. And remember now, McDonald's are huge. They order way in advance. So, just put it this way. All the packaging for McDonald's, stuff that's due at their franchises, say, March of next year, that price is already locked in. See, McDonald's is saying, hey, as we go to lock in, right now they're probably trying to lock product in for December of next year. Every time they go, they're like, oh, they just increased prices another 4% on us. Labor cost up 10%, according to the CEO of McDonald's. And they said that they're going to increase prices another 6%. And they said they may not be done. McDonald's is so big, they actually have a National Owners Association. That's for their franchises, Jason. Because McDonald's has very few corporate stores, very few. And they said they came out with their own press release. Inflation is the flip side to all of these changes, they said. And they're talking about, let's face it, they're talking about the central bank and these ridiculous policies. Price increases are happening everywhere you look. And we will continue as employers to pass along these added costs. A Big Mac is going to get more expensive. Our government officials need to know what is happening out in the real world. kind of taking a shot at that ridiculous number the Fed just put out today. They need to know what they are creating: an inflationary time bomb. The National Owners Association, and that is an advocacy group. It's self-funded by the McDonald's franchise owners themselves, Jason.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a staple. I mean, how many years have we grown up with McDonald's? Back in the old years, I remember everybody loved McDonald's, and then health-conscious people started attacking McDonald's. But it's been here as a part of American culture, and so when the Big Mac price goes up, it's that's relevant, Joe. That's relevant. And What do you remember the song? What was the song? 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Sesame seed bun, right? Oh my!
There you go, McDonald's.
You know what? Everybody out there listening that's at least 40 grew up with that jingle, didn't they?
Yep.
You know. And I'm one of those picky eaters, so I've never, ever have had a Big Mac.
Me neither. I never liked it.
Never, ever had a Big Mac. But I do know this: I don't do fast food like that hardly ever. And I know that's deceiving because I'm a big fat guy. But I will say this: I went to Burger King. It was last week, and I just get a hamburger. That's it. The place I was going, a hamburger was $1.07 after tax. $1.40 last week. So that was how long I haven't. Maybe the last time I got a Burger King hamburger was, I don't know, maybe it was in March or April. I mean, like I said, I don't do it very often. $1.40.
That's kind of the same ratio as the water I'm buying, which we went from about 99 cents to $1.39. About the same ratio.
And so when we sit here and we looked at the number today, and I know everyone wants to talk about inflation. The Fed's going to taper. That wasn't the big number in that report. The big number in that report had to do with the savings rate. And, for the consumer spending to go up 0.6, the savings rate had to fall 1%. That math's not good. That math is not good. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, could we, Jason, possibly enter into this inflationary super cycle, and then all of a sudden at the same time the spending of the consumer starts to collapse? I mean, is that possible?
Absolutely. I just said that the people are loading up the credit cards. You better believe a lot of those people are thinking, well, I'm just going to load it up and bankrupt myself out of it. People do think this way. It's like, hey, I better load up on the things I need and try to survive this thing. And it ain't going to matter. People, when the bankruptcies and the foreclosures are going up, Joe, when these things start to happen, that's usually when one of these market corrections really becomes reality. It's coming.
It was so funny too. Apple and Amazon had earnings last night. I'm disastrous. Apple hasn't missed revenue in 4 or 5 years. Not even close on revenue. Well, I guess it was fairly close. They missed revenue by $1 billion. Their first revenue miss in Apple earnings since 2017. Tim Cook said that Apple, due to supply constraints, is going to cost Apple $6 billion. I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't going to cost Apple anything. They're just going to raise prices to offset the losses there. And then Amazon, probably the worst number we've seen out of Amazon maybe ever. They said sales were up 15%, but revenue still missed. Earnings per share. They were expecting Amazon to make $9 per share in earnings. They made $6. And they just blamed it all on operating expenses, that everything just cost more. My guess is, Jason, we're probably going to see Amazon raising prices as well.
Oh, absolutely. This next couple of years will be fascinating, Joe, because Amazon to me is trying as hard as they can to catch up to Walmart. And I saw a whole thing on Amazon versus Walmart. Walmart is by far just heads and tails above Amazon. And one of these days, Joe, and maybe it's coming when this market crash comes, when are these two companies going to talk about maybe merging what they do, right?
Yeah.
One big company.
Boy, I did. What? Wow. That makes a lot of sense, right? Walmazon coming next. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe Jake with Jason Walker. You know what? I just got this handed to me during the break. Brittany just handed this to me. I've got 40 $10 Liberties. We're going to run them at $1,035. So $1,035. I've only got 40 of them, though, at 800-951-0592. Really quickly, because I got so many things. God, I don't even know where to go. Let's go with this one. Thanksgiving. Fire Creek Farms. They do holiday turkeys. Said that they are going to have to raise prices of turkey to $6 a pound.
Wow.
$6 a pound. You know, think about this. That puts like a 16-pound turkey at like $100. They said that is more than 20% higher than last year. Bad news, by the way. Janet Yellen's out. She's been talking a lot today. The Biden administration, their little spending bill, that human infrastructure bill, you know, the one that Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema have been blocking, they got to a number that Manchin and Sinema could live with, which was about $1.7 trillion. That just sent Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad off the deep end. No deal. Janet Yellen out today saying, hey, guys, don't worry. None of these spending packages is going to cause inflation. Matter of fact, she's in Rome. Now, why is she in Rome? Who knows? Right? But she's in Rome, and I'm sure she's talking with all the other muckety-mucks and private bankers out there. She says that these packages, which we don't even know what's in the one package, they can't even agree. But listen to this. This is get your boots on right now. I'm gonna pause here a little bit. Everyone, get your boots on because it's going to get real deep here real quick. She is insisting that the spending package will do is lower some of the most important costs. Yes. See, if we just spend more money, costs are going to go down. And she brought up items. Jason, she brought up a few. Health care is going to go down. Gee, I seem to remember this health care bill that was passed. God, what was it called again? That was supposed to lower all the prices of everything. What was it?
Yeah, the Obama thing.
Oh, that's right.
The
Obamacare.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't that supposed to make everything cheaper? I was paying $250 a month for my family with a $5,000 deductible. I now have a $10,000 deductible, and my cost is over $1,000 a month. Jason looks like a genius because he says, you know what, I'm not even going to buy health care.
Yeah.
Why? You know what, I think I can spend less than $12,000.
I take care of my own health care. I figure it's cheaper and better that way. I actually stay healthy.
And then she said, you know, here's the other one because it's always about the children. Because remember, one part of their big plan in this bill is they now want the kids at 3 years old. So they can, you know, retrain them. You know, I call it free babysitting because, hey, mom and dad, you're too busy. You both got to work now because the inflation we've caused, you probably both got to work 2 jobs now. So we'll take the kid at 3. Child care is going to get cheaper. I don't know anybody out there that is paying less for child care. I don't know anyone. Now, I guess if you're poor enough, you get it for free. Right, Jason? I guess that. But if it's already free, how could it be more?
Oh, I think you hit it. All these things you're saying are if it's socialized and government controlled, then it's cheaper for that person. You just have to give up to these programs.
I don't think these investments will drive up inflation at all. Yeah, are you kidding me? This again. Remember, these are the people that we've put in charge. She's at the Treasury Department. She's already been the central banker. It was her and Ben Bernanke. They're the ones that came up with that brilliant 2% thing. Why should we want any inflation at all? Shouldn't we want there to be no inflation?
Zero inflation.
Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah, no, that's right? The way it's supposed to be, Joe. Zero inflation. There's no need for it. It shouldn't happen.
And I want you to understand what's happening, because I know a lot of you you're starting to see it. You're starting to see it. And the bad stuff hasn't even gotten here yet. Coca-Cola today. Be ready for what they're calling it, sporadic outages, Jason. I don't know what that necessarily means, but
Coca-Cola said that. Coca-Cola said that.
Coca-Cola.
Sporadic outages. So it sounds like
sporadic outages.
It sounds like an energy thing. It doesn't sound like Coca-Cola.
Yes. We're going to have rolling blackouts. We're going to start with strawberry Fanta. Then it's going to go to Coke Zero, and then Diet Coke, and then eventually Coke. Sporadic outages.
It just sounds like a nice way of saying empty shelves.
Wow.
It's not empty
don't
shelves.
Worry,
it's not empty shelves. It's sporadic outages. That's any better. Oh, man.
Janet Yellen also still, Jason says, it's still fair to use transitory. In the sense that even if it doesn't mean a month or two, it still means a little bit longer than that.
I got a funny Janet Yellen thing if we have time on the last segment here. You'll love it.
All right, Patriot Radio News Hour. Wrapping up on a Friday. Wow. Boy, she said a lot today, didn't she? Eight 951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. This just breaking. I Am Gold. They have a major operation in Africa. Their convoy has come under attack by Islamic militants. I don't know the details behind it, but it was their employees. And maybe possibly gold as well that's come under attack. Just to let you know that one mine out in some remote part of Africa there, 364,000 ounces of gold were produced in 2020. This is one of the problems with mining stocks is stuff like that, right, Jason?
I was going to say that. That's why I do physical gold, Joe. I mean, there's so many companies you can put your money in and your faith in and try to make money on, but safe savings, which is what I try to tell my customers, Joe, when they come in. Savings is gold and silver. It protects you from all of this craziness. Owning a gold mine stock, you can make some money there. Any stock or Bitcoin or this stuff, you can try to make money, but there's so much more risk involved versus physical gold, Joe.
Yeah, and you think about this, something like this. I'm sure. Don't have the details yet, but it doesn't sound good. It's going to be awfully hard to get miners to come to work, and it's also if there was stolen gold shipments and things of that nature, right? All of those things coming into play there. I'm sure we'll talk more about that as details come out next week. But yeah, Janet Yellen, Jason, unbelievable today. Oh no, we can still use transitory.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so it's not 1 or 2 months. Not 1 or 2 months. Dude, inflation has been roaring for a year, and it's getting worse. But so what if it's a little longer? It's okay.
Yeah, she's awful. I'll say this. I'll take this piece to the half-empty cup of Joe. So if you're there in Arizona, if you want to flip over to 1360khnc.com, I got a fun. It's a satire piece. I'll say it, but it's so good. Brian brought this to me several days ago. We got a little time. Glenn Tate's not able to join us, and so Brian and I got some time. I'm going to put this little Janet Yellen thing. You're going to love it, Joe. We'll start off.
And also for those of you 1360 KHNC, go to the podcast section if you can't listen to it live. The Half Empty Cup of Joe.
Yep.
And you can always listen to it that way as well. Today's special $10 Liberties. We only had 40 of them. This is going to be a running problem. My guess is this is going to continue well into next year as well. Just every day's different. Supplies are different. I got 40 $10 libs, 1,035. That's $25 off. And really, it's about 30, almost I think $40 less than what a $10 Liberty was yesterday. 800-951-0592. We got gold down $22. Silver's actually hanging in there, only down 15 cents. Wall Street really not doing a whole lot today. The NASDAQ and the S&P are lower. The Dow's up a little bit, which I'm shocked because Apple and Amazon, not good news out of either one of those companies today. But I do think that they like news out of McDonald's raising prices. They like news out of Del Monte raising prices, right? They like those things.
Absolutely, Joe. And as I had mentioned earlier about the idea of Amazon and Walmart merging, I mean, really we have the S&P 7. And why do I feel like that's going to end up being the S&P 5 and the S&P 4? Because that's where it's headed.
Right?
Yep.
Walmart. You have, how about Apple and Microsoft merging, right? And you just even have less and less out there. It could be half empty cup of Joe. We got a doozy of a show coming up next. God bless everybody. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back on Monday.